What's up, Squarespace designers? I know I'm not the only one who has ever been frustrated with the Squarespace font picker. I've got a little something that may help with that. If you've worked on many Squarespace sites, you're very familiar with this whole little font picker thing where you can choose your headings and paragraphs fonts. Of course, you can choose from Squarespace's pre-selected font packs, but the real fun happens when you go here and you start looking for anything and everything. You're relegated to this little window, a couple hundred pixels wide. It holds about 9 fonts at once.
That's kind of small.
And it shows you a little preview. All well and good, but man, that's not a lot of space. And other than the initial, they offer a couple dozen fonts in the sans serif category, a couple dozen in serif, a couple dozen display, a few script, a few slab serif, a few mono. And then you're into the other, which is everything. I did a little peeping in the source code, and there's over 4,000 fonts available in the Squarespace font library. I think about 1,500 Google fonts and twice that many Adobe fonts. But if you look in here, you'll notice that most of the fonts that they feature are Google fonts. They're completely free fonts. The Adobe fonts are dependent on a licensing agreement between Squarespace and Adobe's many font founders that they work with. And there have been some shifts, some font deprecations over the past year that have reminded me that having fonts available in Squarespace is not a given. And have also left me wanting to be able to browse the fonts that are available on Squarespace more readily than the little window. So let me show you what I built. This is a directory of all the fonts on Squarespace. If you're curious how I put this together, you can look at the little thing here at the bottom. Here's the fun bit. You can filter by category, right? I've got more categories than Squarespace gives you. So you've got the classics like serif and sans serif, but then also some of the many other categories as well. And so you can filter by category. Say we're looking at sans serif. You can load a whole bunch of entries at once. You can filter by source. So if you're only interested in the stuff that's also available on Google Fonts, say you're putting together a brand identity for a client that's not going to be able to afford to license the fonts for other uses through Adobe or whatever. If it's available on Google Fonts, it's free everywhere. And say you're also interested in fonts that are available on Canva, because that's a popular graphic design software for a lot of folks. You can filter by whether it's available on Canva or not, by what source it's coming from. I heard a couple Microsoft sourced fonts. And of course, there are a couple that are available on pretty much every system. If you use those, you'll be super safe. And then you can search by font name, and it's pretty fast. There's Outfit. That's a fun, slightly stylized sans serif that I used on a client site recently. Anyway, it's all here. If you found it useful, you can leave me a tip using this link. If you found a problem with it, you can leave feedback right here. It's a little pop-up modal form. And if you're curious how it was built, you can scroll down to the bottom here. But yeah, super excited to share this tool. It was something that I needed that I thought would be useful. And so I figured if I could use it, probably other people could too. And if you're interested in that, you might also be interested in a new guide that I put together. I'm calling it the Ultimate Guide to Fonts in Squarespace. The first section, of course, links to this font directory I just showed you, but then also talks a little bit, for those who don't know, about different categories of fonts. I suggest a number of different font pairings in Squarespace. Pairings of typefaces that I think can look well together. So those are all in here. There's a step-by-step guide to deploying custom fonts on Squarespace, which hopefully we won't need soon. There's been some rumors of Squarespace adding a custom font uploader within the site styles. And then the last 5 pages or so are some of my favorites, some of my go-to CSS upgrades for typography on Squarespace. So you can download this font guide as a PDF in a little modal on the font directory. I'd love to hear what you think of it, and I'd love to hear what font pairings you're coming up with. I think of font pairings, some people think about wine and cheese pairings. You're just trying to find that perfect combo. So have fun out there. There's a lot of fonts to sift through. Happy designing.